Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Mattel Halo Universe series Wave 2 Spartan FOTUS, which is a Toys R Us exclusive. This is a continuation of the 6-inch line that we saw not too long ago. It was a fairly short batch of figures, and now we've got another small batch coming out with some slight changes. You guys will remember that I talked about quite a variety of things that really should have been altered on the figures to make them better, and some of those things have been addressed and others largely neglected. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and get the figure off the stand and take a closer look. This figure stands, not counting the unicorn horn, just about 15.5 centimeters, which makes it just about 6 inches, maybe closer to, it's closer to 6 1/4. So it's not particularly small, but it's not 1/12 scale. It's definitely a little bit too small for that scale. If you're not worried about scale, then it's really no issue. As you can see, it's not a tiny figure. It's sizable enough. If you're concerned with size, I know that's a very subjective thing. The first thing I notice when I see this figure is it's made out of terrible plastic. And here's the thing about that, is they did change the plastic they're using, at least as far as I can tell, and based on what they've said, that they changed the plastic they're using for the removable armor parts to make it more rigid and to peg in better and to fit better. And that's all well and good, but you can see this plastic has really weird specularity. It just kind of absorbs the light. It's like semi-translucent. It just looks really incredibly cheap. In fact, the yellow paint that's throughout the under armor, and then even on some of the armored parts, it's way more opaque. It's glossier, it's more yellow, but still painted poorly. You can see, even though the paint itself is opaque, there are spots that are missing paint. And it just doesn't look good. It looks like a really, really low-end figure. This plastic looks so cheap. And then they used a slightly different yellow for the shoulders, which is still also very translucent looking. It does not look good. It's not appealing at all. The only clean paint job on this thing is the striping, and that's just some silver/gray striping. It's really just only okay. I guess they did an okay job at the unicorn horn, but the rest of it is totally devoid of paint. I mentioned those yellow spots in the beginning, and that's about it. It's really, really just a lackluster looking figure, and being that weird light-absorbing translucent yellow plastic, it makes it look even worse. Honestly, it's very, very disappointing to me, because I want these lines to, any Halo line really, but this line in particular, to be as successful as it can be. And I cannot see people that are just collecting because they're collectors wanting these. I can see these being aimed more towards kids, and that's fine, but this isn't entirely, at least as far as I can tell, being directed towards kids, so that's kind of a bummer. The other change they made for the figures was to get rid of those slippers that they had for the foot armor and to actually make permanent foot armor, which is fine, but again, it's just solid yellow translucent plastic, and that's not entirely great. It's definitely better than before, but it also makes the fact that they have interchangeable armor less of a real thing and more of just a gimmick, because now you're stuck with permanent armor on the feet and the rest is all interchangeable. So it's just kind of like there's no real utility to that. It's really just a matter of making production cheaper, and that's just a bummer to me because it doesn't feel like a collectible at all. It feels much like a kid's toy really, and that's kind of a bummer. Okay, so before we get into the figure anymore, let's talk accessories. We have two interchangeable heads. We have the FOTUS armor, which you saw in the packaging, or this one that comes on it in the packaging, and then we also have a Helios Skrill helmet. I guess that gives us a little bit of added value. Not sure what's up with that, but as far as I can tell, now I never wore the FOTUS. Did it come with its own armor in game? Did it have torso and everything? Or are we just getting a Helios Skrill Spartan with a FOTUS helmet? Which seems like the case to me. So that's kind of strange. We have two interchangeable right hands. We have one hand that's split for gripping the sword and one hand that's made for a trigger finger. So for the sword, we do have an energy sword. I don't know what the hell this is though. Why is it pink and purple and blue? I don't think any of the energy swords look like this. I don't think so. I could be totally wrong, but I played enough Halo and I don't remember one ever being pink and blue. So that's kind of a bummer. And then we do get a pistol, which looks enough like the pistol, but it's still just a little hunk of gray plastic. And we get weapons pegs to peg into those weapons for the hips. And that's it. So it's not, there's not a whole lot going on here. You can take off most of the armor, not counting the feet, if you want to, but that doesn't really count as an accessory. And it's really inadvisable unless you're getting these for a little kid and they want to just take the armor apart. And then it's really not that advisable because then they're going to eat the parts. You don't want to do that. So I don't know, guys. This line is just pretty disappointing. I'll run the articulation real quick, but it's not really going to make a difference because the figure is still pretty ugly and dissatisfying. We have a ball peg for the neck, which does work pretty well. It can lean a little bit from side to side. Not a whole lot, but some. You get the rotation in the forward and back, so that's okay. We have ball hinge shoulders, which raise up no problem at all, so that's good. Full rotation there. Bicep swivel works okay. I think this is supposed to be a double jointed elbow, but on either side I can only get the one joint to work. So you only have a single jointed elbow in practice, which is only about 90 degrees. And then you have a swivel and a hinge for either wrist. And apparently it was unclear to a lot of people when this wave first came out. They couldn't figure out how to get the forearm armor on the figure. Pull the hand off, then put the armor on, put the hand back on. That's how it's designed to work. For the torso, you get a ball peg, so it leans back a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Doesn't really lean forward at all. You do get a little bit of torso swivel, not a whole lot, and a little bit of lean, which is actually pretty good. I will say the armor does fit on the figure better. It's definitely better in that regard, but the plastic they used being translucent is really what dinged it. You can bring the hips almost all the way forward, so that's okay. It's probably okay enough for a running pose. Bring them out to the side works surprisingly well still, so we can do splits. And then you have a thigh swivel, which is okay. For the double jointed knee, it doesn't really want to go. So I have less than 90 on that one. Let's see if this one will do it. Yeah, kind of, if I force it. And then we just get slightly better than 90. So the knees are rather strange and not altogether great. For the ankle hinge, we can go forward a little bit, just barely though. So running poses are going to be a challenge. And then they do go back pretty far, so that's good. And we get an ankle rocker, but it's at a very steep angle, so that's going to be very difficult to pose. So ultimately, it's still pretty much more of the same. Some things are slightly better, other things are a lot worse. I don't know, guys. I'm really curious what you guys are thinking. Whether if you're a Halo collector, let me know what you think. If you're just a regular person who might be getting Halo stuff, let me know what you think. But for me, it's a big bummer. It's very disappointing to see. I mean, it could so easily be made better with just a little bit of good paint and better plastic, but it's not. So it's very disappointing, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and in the meantime, keep collecting.